Alright, hello everybody, Interjection here, and today I'd like to do another one of those unscripted, unedited, single attempt videos where I just talk about a thing, because normally when I try to do this I just restart over and over and over again, and that just takes a long time, and I just need to get the stuff out there. I need to talk about the thing, and that is Radimus Erkle, the new diamond card, which I presume will be coming from the Trials of Radimus, the campaign mode coming to Chronicle, which will be free to play. This first campaign will be free, and I imagine this will be the reward, though that is not confirmed, and there may be other rewards, who knows. But a very strong 2-cost support that reads, if you have a location in your deck, gain 4 gold and draw 2 cards, with a 5 armor reward and a 1/2 weapon as well. Definitely a very strong card, and everybody on Reddit's already pointed that out. It's strong, but I don't think that's a very interesting thing to say, because it's supposed to be strong. Jagex knows this is strong, and that's a good thing, I think, because the deck it's going into, right, is going to have to be a gold deck, because it says gain 4 gold. If you want to make use of that 4 gold, you're going to have enough supports that cost gold in the deck to make this, like, kind of consistent and worth running. And I think those kind of decks that generate gold are a bit lacking at the moment, and Radimus is really, hopefully, going to help them out. Imagine something like AP Raptor that wants to get Amulets of Fury, and his agenda is killing stuff that gives him gold to buy those, and that deck just doesn't exist, but I'd really, really like it too, and I feel like this is a step in the right direction towards making those sort of gold decks a bit better. Now, obviously, there are some decks already that exist that this goes perfectly into, that people have pointed out, and of course I'd like to talk about those as well, which we'll do in just a moment. But I think the best comparison of this card is... well, firstly, I think one of the comparisons is Adamant Armor. I think this compares very favorably to Adamant Armor, but that's also not a very interesting comparison, because Adamant Armor isn't really played very much. The better comparison, I would say, is Krasian Warrior, which is a top-level card, top-tier card that is seen in a lot of decks, and is, you know, just a really good card draw engine. So Radimus is basically, I think, very comparable to that, because it says, draw 2 cards. And that's the role I think people will run this card for, is card draw. Obviously, the other things are very, very nice as well. But yeah, I think the fact that Krasian is, you know, a 7/3 and basically does require you to have a base attack, or to have gained a base attack, or have a weapon or something to kill it, I think that is very comparable to the cost of 2 gold, which is, you know, you're going to have to kill something equally as difficult to get that, you know, to generate some gold, like Ali Morrow is saying. Like, you have to do something. I think those two things are very, very comparable. So, let's move on to take a look at some decks it could go into. I think one of the most interesting decks it could go into is Grieflinzer, which we'll take a look at here. Because I think this is probably a very well-optimized Grieflinzer, and I will make a deck guide at some point. Currently working on a deck guide, actually. Not for this deck, but yes, that will be a scripted, proper guide, and that should be out pretty soon. I'm halfway through that. But for Grieflinzer in particular, I think it's going to replace Wife Wolf. At least it would in my deck, because, you know, this is clearly the worst card here. You take 5 damage, killing it most of the time to get 2 cards and a 2 gold reward, and that's effectively what Radimus is, right? I mean, you spend 2 gold, but you do net 2 gold as a reward, and then you get the two cards as well. So it's basically the same, but you also get 5 armor, which is really exceptional, and you get that 1/2 weapon, which is really interesting in Linzer, because it has those interactions with things like Repurpose, with Varrock Museum, and Karam, and all of the other things that spend a weapon. So that's really good, and I think Grieflinzer currently does need a bit of a leg up. She did get hit quite hard by the nerfs, particularly on Dust Devil, and I think she really does need something like that to help out. But having said that, there's only 2 locations in the deck, which is Varrock Museum, so I'm not necessarily sure that is enough locations. You might need to add some more. There are some options. I mean, Combat Academy, you might be able to take out something like Barbarian Warrior and put in Combat's Academies. Obviously not nearly as good. Or maybe it would be Goblin Raider that you'd take out, because Barbarian Warrior is really useful for activating that Dust Devil on 2 base attack if you want to do that at the start of the game. So maybe you wouldn't. It's like you'd have to make the call though, because Goblin Raider is clearly the better card. Like if you combo Goblin Raider with Varrock Museum, you know, that 3 durability weapon is basically Ali Morrow saying 3 gold and 2 armor as well. That card's really good. So I don't know what you'd cut, but maybe you do need to put some more locations in. But definitely could make Grieflinzer very, very strong. The other deck, and I think the more obvious one, is Ozen, who has an absolute ton of locations. So we're looking at Safe Spot, Pyramid Plunder, Black Marketeer. These are all really good ones, and I think they all lend themselves much better to the aggressive deck, the sort of aggro Zan. I don't think this will fit very well into AP Hope Zan, or whatever you want to call it, because Amscat Mystic is a very good card in that deck, and this, this won't work if you have gold, and you're probably going to want to have gold in the Radimus deck. So there is that. The thing is, though, how useful is Radimus in an aggro deck is the question, because you're not looking for armor and a weapon, but it is very good in terms of, it's basically Black Arm Bandit, right? You're gaining 2 gold and drawing 2 cards, which, I don't know, maybe Donation is better because it draws 3 cards, but a lot of the time giving your opponent 4 gold, especially in the lower ranks, is definitely not something you want to do. There is that. But I would make the argument that it's so good that you should run it anyway, because in the mirror matchup or against other aggro decks, 5 armor is just going to be exceptional in that 1-2 weapon. I think weapons just surprisingly are very, very useful a lot of the time. Now, finally, the decks, if we type location into the deck thing, I think I want to point out this does not fit in Ariane. She has no locations. Miracle Ariane won't want to run that, so everybody chill out. By the way, we're getting this card for free. I think I said that at the start of the video. So the fact that it's really strong and everyone's upset about that is not, I don't know, it's a non-issue. I think I'm glad to see a good card coming into the game. I think a lot of the time Jagex is afraid to print good cards, and it's just refreshing to see something we might actually be able to play. So looking forward to that. But yes, I think outside of the Miracle Ariane deck that doesn't want to run really any of these locations, I think any deck could run Radimus, given that there are a few locations that are reasonable to run in any deck, especially something like AP Raptor. I really would like to see AP Raptor run it, and I'd really like to see AP Raptor go down that gold route. I just wish that avenue had more support to it, and maybe it will in the future. But I say that because Monolith Chamber is a support, and I do think that's very interesting. And obviously Kaizaj Tournament is a support, is a location as well. We all know their supports, but is a location as well. And there is that. So, and also I think Falador Party Room is a card you could conceivably run. It's not really very good, but maybe in a world where Virago and Court Beast aren't so key to winning, hopefully we'll see some changes in the next 6 or 7 weeks to those guys. Then Falador Party Room might be a lot better in that deck. It's just really interesting because currently, I don't know, if there were a class to go with that gold gain agenda for AP, it would be Raptor, right? Because he's the only guy that actually has the tools to do it in terms of Amulet of Fury, and yeah, I think that's a good card. And maybe Venescula has Vampire Power, but that's not nearly as consistent because it's just one card, right? I feel like there needs to be some sort of neutral big gold gain card. Like, an idea I had was, imagine a card called Legends Guild or Heroes Guild, which in RuneScape is all about, so basically you need a certain stats to get into the guild. So in Chronicle, that would translate to having, you might need something like 7 base attack, which you could use. You could do that through temporary attack, which is interesting. And maybe you need to have a certain amount of armor as well. Basically, you need to meet the requirements that you would in RuneScape to get in. And then you pay a substantial amount. It'd have to be a big amount of gold. But you get into the Legends Guild, and then you gain something like 3 base attack and a whole bunch of max life, so you might go up to 40 life or something like that. So basically it'd be a big old neutral vampire power, kind of like that, but it would have some flavorful requirements to it. And I think that would really, really help out the sort of gold gain avenue, because currently, I mean, I guess the point I'm really getting to is, at least in the neutrals, there are not any meaningful end game expensive late game supports, right? I mean, this is obviously an aggro card and is pretty reasonable, but Full Tetsu just got hit very hard recently in one of the nerfs. And then other than that, they're just big old weapons, and maybe Stamina Potion. That's really good. That's a really nice card, but there is nothing to spend the gold on. And I just, gold decks need more of need more support. And I think Radimus is going to be that. I think this card will really only go into decks that have enough supports in to make it getting that 4 gold kind of worthwhile. So that's Radimus, and that's my thoughts on it. And hopefully this will be the start of many cards that will support gold decks, because I think Chronicles, when you first start playing Chronicle, it's incredibly fun to just generate gold and buy things. I think that's one of the much more interesting parts of Chronicle. I do like the current AP styles, but I'd like there to be a gold style as well. And I think Radimus, if anything, points that Jagex is going in that direction, but also obviously it fits into the decks that I just mentioned as well. Thanks for listening. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you all again next time.